Chapter 5. Corian and the Kerchief. The moon illuminated the cow-shed where Juliana and the others slept. Its fingers came in through the lattice-work, stippling the wooden floor, waking Juliana. She decided that now was her chance to flee. She would slip away quietly without the guard seeing her, and escape by hitching a ride somehow. Anything had to be a safer risk than staying here. Nausea. She felt a soul sickness for home sweep over her. As she hastened, she knew not whither, stars like twinkling asterisks bloomed. One particular star bloomed. She halted. Suddenly, before her eyes stood a shimmering figure. His hair fell down in a river of oysterish crystal foam. As it shone, it cast a light of its own down on the shadowy places where the moonlight did not reach. She stood transfixed, powerless to move. "Are you an angel?" she breathed reverently. "I am a star in the constellation of Orion. They call me Corian," he said, bestowing on her a dazzling smile. As he looked down on her, she felt pleasantly comforted by his assumptionable supremacy. Light scattered off him like alfoil. Star or no star, maybe he could get her home. "Oh, Mr. Corian, can you help me?" she began desperately. "Tell me what happened," he said kindly. "I don't know what happened. I fell asleep on the bus and somehow ended up here. And I'm not even sure where here is. I seem to have fallen into this wormhole," she quavered. Her pent-up feelings now began to unpent themselves. "I am marooned in this medieval morgue. But I know I'm not dead, because my finger started to bleed when I cut it on a jagged piece of rock in the mines, and dead people don't bleed." "Can't fault your logic there," replied the star good-naturedly. There was a double enchantment of strangeness and familiarity about this stellar being that loosened her tongue to say what really mattered. "Thank you," she continued. "My hair's greasy. I haven't showered in days. I'm dressed in pig swill. I'm bone-tired from being forced, at gunpoint, to work all day like a pit pony in some hot, nasty mine. Maybe I'm dreaming or hallucinating. But, you know, if I didn't know better, I'd say that this isn't even the 21st century. There's no soap, or TV, or school. I hate this place. It's not normal. And I'm forced to drink green slime and eat foul-smelling black bread. I don't deserve this," she whimpered. "I don't deserve this. I deserve a happy life, not this black hole of battiness. Light and matter cannot escape, and neither can I. All I want is to go home." She wept great tears of sorrow. "Yes, escape from here is difficult. But don't try to resist, my dear, because resistance is futile." He smiled in a twinkly way. Didn't he just make a joke, she wondered? The unlikeliness of this interrupted for a moment her torrent of self-pity. He was the first person since she had arrived in this strange place who seemed to understand her predicament and tried to cheer her up. She lapped it up like a thirsty cat. Corian paused. "Do you remember Arnold, the ferryman, who dropped you off here?" he asked. "You mean the bus driver?" "If you like." "Yes, of course I remember him. He wore a black cap and kept getting the suburb's name wrong. Something about Pelican's Landing? When I live at Peregrine's Landing. Easy mistake. Both birds, I guess. But I don't know how you can confuse a pelican with a falcon. Falcons don't fish, they sort of snatch, don't they? Anyway, it was late, and I suppose everyone's entitled to a mistake sometimes," she said airily. "Would you stop blathering?" said the star. "Eh?" she exclaimed, taken aback. "He did not make a mistake. This kingdom's right and proper name is Pelican's Landing. It is named after the ancient heralding of the advent of a once and future thing. And you are right, this is not your century. And Arnold brought you here, to what is now currently known as Striven, on purpose, he said. Striven? It is the name of the place you would understand as a cosmic corridor. Gangway, borderland, passage, viaduct. A place that stands between 2 points, he explained. Like YouTube? No, Juliana, not like YouTube. And another thing, she demanded. How do you explain the fact that I came dressed in my normal clothes one day and woke up the next in this convict's uniform? She spat the words out contemptuously. Did not one of your own say, "There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than all your vain philosophies?" he said, raising one eyebrow. Juliana slowly considered the facts of the situation. Okay, well, if Arnold brought me here to this driven corridor, then Arnold can just take me out of it and get back home to 2012, to a nice hot shower and tea and toast and cake, she said, relishing the thought. You still don't get it, do you, child? You cannot leave this place at will now. You were brought here because there is something only you can do, something you must do. He produced a black briefcase. He clicked it open and held up a shield or a coat of arms. It was not ornate like our Queen's coat of arms, but much simpler. At the very top of the shield were a pair of broad wings. It was made up of 3 equal segments. The left section had a background of azure blue. Embossed in fine filaments of gold was a symbol of the sun. The right section had a gold background and contained a picture of a jacaranda tree. The bottom third held a few simple lines depicting a table and chairs. In the very centre of the shield was an empty indentation in the shape of a heart. This is the Symbola. He held the escutcheon aloft. As you can see, it is missing a central piece that is more beautiful than the day. It has lost its heart. To free Striven from its present reign of terror, and restore the land and its people to its original splendid glory, the white heart of stone must be found and returned to its ancient shield. What you see now, this dank and dreary place, Castle Delusia, he waved a hand around dismissively, wasn't always so. It was called Castle Jacaranda because of the beautiful jacaranda trees that flowered all year round. The buildings and lands surrounding the castle are now very much altered and quite run down. The current king and queen let the old castle and its surrounding hamlets go to seed. They had the temerity to pull down the north wing and build their own private suite where the orangery used to be. They constructed this monstrosity on the ruins of the other. So, how did this king and queen ever get their greedy mitts on this place to begin with? She interrupted. Well, I would need many a long moonlit night to explain how all that came about. Oh, I don't mind listening, however long it takes. She found that she was intrigued by this tale in spite of herself. She enjoyed being taken up into the mysterious silver confidences of this luminous being. Anyway, as I was saying, he resumed mite tetchily, for Corion was a star of single purpose, and did not like being sidetracked, least not by this mere chit of a girl. Alas, when the new king and queen took the throne from the old masters, one of the first things they did was order that the jacaranda trees were to be cut down, because they said they were outdated, sentimental, and spoiled the view. No more soft carpets of lilac blossoms underfoot. They also changed the name to Delusia. It is a sad loss because the old masters were kind and scholarly, and had many libraries and great kitchens and gardens and bakeries and cellars. In fact, in one of the old brew houses they used to distill their own wine and sweet mead. Next to it was a fine pub called the Keg and Kipper. And oh, the feasts they had there, he said wistfully. The scrawny little doos here, they call a feast, don't hold a candle to the festivities they had then, he said contemptuously. Tables draped with great swathes of rich damask and topped with delicate chiffon simply groaned under the weight of roast dinners, silver candelabras, and chocolate ice confections, he said, revelling in the memory. Sounds lovely, she said. But who are these old masters of which you speak? They sound really nice and quiet, and clean. Suffice it to say that they did too much book learning and not enough battle preparation. They hid themselves away in their autumn libraries and pretended that there was no real enemy. When he came, as they had been warned he would, they were totally unprepared for the onslaught. In the end, they got sideswiped, upended, and kicked out, he said, using the technical military jargon. Poor things. So now they can't get rid of this maniacal king and queen, she said. And so I suppose all these poor people now have to live like tortured worms in a bed of mud, she said, hoping to impress Corion with a reference to some old dead philosopher. Corion was not impressed. No, you have got it all wrong, Juliana. You do not see the enemy beneath the enemy. The king and queen are not the real enemy. There is a current stronger than them, pulling, tugging, guiding them in the direction it wants them to go. I have not told you the worst part yet. Terrible things happen here. You will find out soon enough. But for the moment, that is all you need to know, he said in his masterly way. She plunged again into a helix of gloom. Yes, but what about me? I feel like I'm diagonally parked in a parallel universe. I'm hemmed in on all sides. And there's not even a ticket officer walking around to pinch anyone with $100 parking fine. I don't know why I'm surprised about anything now that happens to be here anymore. I mean, what the... I'm talking to a star, for heaven's sake, she said more to herself than anyone else. As she considered the possibility of ever talking again casually with an actual star was somewhat remote, she asked Corion what it was like being, well, a star. Lonely at the top, she ventured. It's not too bad, he confessed, if you don't let all the other planets worry you too much. Although the 42 billion first star I see tonight wishes are wasted on Jupiter, he said dryly. Then getting into his stride, he said, and when you want to get anything out of Saturn, all he says is, don't call me, I'll give you a ring. He paused, waiting for her response. He was such a friendly, noble sort of star, that although the joke was of the poorer sort, she reasoned that at the least she could do was giggle cheerfully. She did so. Okay, seriously. I understand that their situation is bad, but what's it got to do with me? Who brought me here, and why did you come from up there with your mental case thingy? She motioned to the black briefcase and even did the air quotes. And your Symbola, and drag me into all this stuff. Without waiting for an answer, she prattled on. As you already probably know, I live at 9 Sophista Drive, in the Peregrine's Landing estate, Gumleaf Downs. The Earth. Or at least the other one. I don't know. I'm very sad for all these people here. Richard seems nice. I'm not sure about the guards. But they don't deserve this terrible life they have now. And if I could do anything to help, I really would. But you see, it's not my problem. All I know is I'm stuck here and I want to go home. And if you know as much as you claim to, why don't you just be a good and clever star and get me out of here, quick smart, she said. That I cannot do, for I am only a mortal star. I am born, I die. Not with a whimper, admittedly, but with a super bang. And I have many beautiful daughter stars who are a great comfort to me, and will live long after me. But I am just a common, garden variety star. He paused and got sidetracked. Not like those nebulous star in Pleiades. Just because they've got young, hot blue stars, they think they're a celebrity cluster. Ah, Pleiades, please, he said. Now, what was I saying? Coryon asked. Something about a mortal star, said Juliana, helpfully. Ah, yes, he said. I see much, but not all. Someone else arranged for you to come to Striven. What I do know is that it takes an outsider to find what the others can't, and help free the land of Striven from its reign of terror. And you are what is known, I believe, as a corkscrew thinker, he said. Oh, thank you, she said sarcastically. Very flattering. It's just the sort of person MI5 and MI6 used to foil the enemy in your Second World War. And you have been selected to do something similar. Who knows when or if someone else like you will ever find their way here again. They need you. I don't need them, she said grumpily. You must fight these unmanly urges of indifference and cowardice, he said. The time to act is now. The task is at hand. It needs someone with high courage and good brains. Can't be me, then, she said. Ignoring her optimism, he handed her a handkerchief. Embroidered in neat blue stitching in the middle of the handkerchief appeared the following riddle. Saved for life, but not alone. Lose your comfort. Find the stone. Swift the pelican will fly. Striven's foe he'll nullify. Blood and beauty made anew. Home calls, fair maidie. Now pursue. What? None of this makes sense. Pelicans and maidie? Who says that? Look, bottom line, Coryon. If I help you find this white heart of stone, then will I get home? I can't guarantee that. You might not, he shrugged. Not getting home is a risk you'll have to take. Nope, she said firmly. You can take this ridiculous hanky and chuck it for all I care. I'm not going to do it. Why should I risk life and limb on some wild goose chase that will probably end up in me getting into more trouble, just to help your weird world? Besides, I'm not the adventurous type. Really, Coryon, if there's nothing in it for me, why bother? You, Juliana, are like a flower, began the star. Oh, great. Just what I need. A lecturette by some would-be starlet, she muttered diffidently. Despite her dire straits, Juliana could be exasperatingly flippant. Suddenly an icicle of lightning speared the ground next to her and sent a small but painful shock through her body. She yipped like a puppy that's just had its paw stepped on. Coryon looked, at first angrily, at this small ruin of a creature that stood before him, but then he was moved with compassion, for his was a father's heart, and he found himself once again drawn to the child with as much force as he had formerly been repelled by her. Sorry, I'll listen, she said meekly, still nursing a slightly throbbing hand. As I said, you are like a homely flower, a geranium perhaps. Now, you have two choices, my little geranium. You can either keep pulling yourself up by the roots and despairing, because you are shrivelling up, never growing or going home. Or you can take your eyes off yourself for one moment and curve outwards with all your might towards the last chink of sunlight you can find. Soak up all the chlorophyll of love. Take up the challenge, and in doing so, maybe help these good folks along the way. I don't care about them. They can't get me out of here, can they? She said peevishly. At this the star grew white-hot with rage. How dare you? He blasted. Would you cut out your own heart and mind by consigning these good people to a life of miserable slavery and worse? Fie, fie upon you, girl, I say. By now he was shaking with anger. "For one so young! How can you be such a calloused carbuncle? If they are cut, do you not bleed? If they dance, do you not leap? If they weep, does your heart not break right in two?" As taut as a bowstring, their eyes held each other's. "Are you telling me that the only way to help myself is to help them?" She struggled with conflicting emotions. "There is a greater love," his voice trailed off. "The little apple seed must first die and be buried under great clods of earth before it can grow apples and apple blossoms and leaves and bark and wood," Corion said solemnly. A small white tooth pressed against her lower lip. "Oh, Corion, wouldn't it be simpler just to click my shoes 3 times to get home like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz?" she asked. It took a full 43 seconds, but with a powerful effort he fixed his patient look. "No, child." "Oh, well, if I am denied home, at least can't you take me with you up into the cold, quiet sky? It looks so sparkling and peaceful up there, and anything's got to be better than spending my days in this awful place. Can't you save me from, everything?" she pleaded with shining eyes. The words lay between them, bright and hard in the fragile air. "The celestial spheres are thick with holy things about which you know nothing. I am only allowed to shine for a while, because the great star-maker lets me. Child of Earth, you must not ask such a question. If you go with me, you will be unmade." With a sudden sting of longing for she knew not what, she reached out her hand. But with first a flicker, then a fizz, then a popple, the star disappeared up into the high beauty of the Milky Way from whence he came, a billion light-years from her. She tucked the handkerchief and its bizarre embroidered riddle into her tunic pocket. Hugging her arms close to her, she shivered in the cool night air. She felt more lonely and dejected than ever before as she walked quietly back to the cowshed, under a star-swirling sky.